Hello and welcome to the Park Life Podcast. My name is Mike. I'm a travel agent that specializes in all things Disney. Appreciate you joining me today. This is episode 55 of the Park Life Podcast, and it's the history of Walt Disney World and what I'm calling Chapter 2, Opening Day at the Magic Kingdom. Opening day was October 1st, 1971. Be interested, put in the chat, were you there on opening day? Were you there within the first year of opening day? I can tell you I was there about 5 years later in 1976. So some of the things I'm going to cover today that were there on opening day were there in 76 when I was there. And despite the fact that's been just a few years ago, I remember vividly a lot of these things. So pretty special. So I hope you enjoy this trip down memory lane with me as I go through entertainment, rides, restaurants, resorts, everything that was there in 1971 on opening day. There'll be a few things that I do mention, and I'll clarify what day they actually opened up. And I kept it to within a handful of days, maybe within a couple weeks of opening day of the park. There were some things that came in November and December and early in 1972. I've left those off my list for today. But again, this is chapter 2 of a multi chapter of the history of Walt Disney World. It might be 10, 12, 15 chapters. As I learn more through my research, it might mean more chapters. So hope you enjoy the trip with me here. So let's start with entertainment. On opening day in 1971, October 1st, Country Bear Jamboree, which is there today, the Country Bear Musical Jamboree, was there on opening day. The Dapper Dans were there on opening day. I'm sure it's not the same Dans that were there 50 some years ago, 54 years ago, but nonetheless, the Dapper Dans were performing back then on opening day, and I'm sure they were wowing a lot of guests with their musical talents. The Frontier Shooting Arcade was there on opening day, and I will note that this actually just closed on June 24th, 2024. So that's an original day attraction that just recently closed within the last year or so. The Hall of Presidents was an opening day attraction, and I'm considering this a entertainment feature, not a ride, so that's why I have it on my list here. The Enchanted Tiki Room, as we know it today, was there on October 1st, 1971. However, it was called the Tropical Serenade at the time. Anybody remember that? How about the Diamond Horseshoe Review was there on opening day, as well as the Mickey Mouse Review. There were animatronics, and Mickey Mouse led that show. Fantasy in the Sky was the fireworks that were there. However, they did not start on opening day. They started a few weeks later on October 24th, 1971. There was also a very small opening day parade, but a couple weeks later, they had the official kickoff for the parade. It was much larger at that point in time with several hundreds of band members, characters, things like that. So pretty cool stuff. When you think back, that's been 54 years almost to the day as we're recording this here in August of 2025. Now let's talk about the rides that existed on opening day in 1971. And several of these you're going to hear and you're going to remember them because they exist today. Dumbo the Flying Elephant. Now, back then, it was just a singular ride and it was behind the castle. It moved probably a couple decades ago over to Fantasyland where it is today and doubled up to having the two spinning rides. The Haunted Mansion was an opening day attraction in 1971, where it is today. Beautiful, nostalgic, and probably one that will be there to test of time. Same with It's a Small World. October 1st, 71. It's there today. It's going to be there probably for decades to come. The Jungle Cruise, one of my absolute favorite rides today, was an opening day attraction back in 1971, as was the Mad Tea Party. Now, that one is one that at my age now, I'm not a big fan of. I'll ride it as long as we don't have to spin the teacups. But if somebody's going to sit in there and spin away, I will happily watch from the sidelines. Prince Charming's Regal Carousel, which sits behind the castle today. Back in 1971, when it opened, it was actually called Cinderella's Golden Carousel. The name changed, I think, in the 1990s. So interesting there. Anybody remember this one? Snow White's Scary Adventures. And from a kid's perspective, It was scary. It was kind of dark, loud noise, scary noises. So as a child, I remember that vividly. It closed on June 1st, 2012, permanently. The Swiss Family Treehouse that exists today was an opening day attraction October 1st, 1971, as was the Tomorrowland Speedway. Now, that's what it's called today. Back then, it was the Grand Prix Raceway. Same track, same cars, same smell, same sounds, same attraction. The Walt Disney World Railroad opened on opening day with a station at the Main Street USA station that exists today. The stations in Fantasyland and over in Frontierland did not exist on opening day. Those were later years on added. So opening day 1971, if you're taking the train, it was a one-stop only ride around the park. How about this one? Anybody remember Mike Fink's keel boats? I remember that ride. It took you on little smaller boat rides through the rivers of America. That rivers of America no longer exist as of today in August of 2025, as that is making way for the new Cars Land attractions. This is a fan favorite for those that are a little bit older and remember it, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. It still exists in Disneyland. A lot of people wish they would bring it back to Disney World, but again, it was an opening day attraction. This is another one that I vividly remember as a child. The Skyway, which is a traditional ski lift ride, had the cables that ran from one side of the park over from Tomorrowland over by where Carousel of Progress is today over to Fantasyland where the Rapunzel Tower and bathrooms are today. I vividly remember riding that. Thought it was the coolest thing being able to see most all of the park from up there along the way. How about Davy Crockett's Explorer canoes, also in the rivers of America, an opening day attraction? So, as you can see, there are a handful that no longer exist any longer. There are a number of them that opened in 1971 that exist still today. So, a lot of nostalgia carried through 54 plus years. Now, a couple of other rides that opened up just shortly after October 1st, 1971. The Liberty Square Riverboat opened on October 2nd, 1971. It just closed this year on July 7th, 2025. Peter Pan's Flight, one of the most popular rides in the Magic Kingdom today, opened on October 3rd, 1971. And the last one I'll list out here, again, another ride as a child I remember. I remember believing that we were out to sea and the creatures that we were seeing were real. And that is the 20,000 Leagues ride in the submarines. It opened October 14th, 1971. So about 2 weeks after opening day. Another fan favorite attraction. I loved it as a kid. Was sad to see it go, but progress is a wonderful thing as well. So if you're keeping score at home, in Adventureland, there were 3 different rides or attractions. In Frontierland, there were 4. Fantasyland had 9. Tomorrowland had 2. One of them was the Tomorrowland Speedway, which was the Grand Prix raceway at the time, and the other was the station for the Skyway. So you think today, Tomorrowland has so much more that did not exist back in 1971. And then Liberty Square had 2 items as well. Restaurants are up next on my list for opening day. I was surprised as I did the research on this. I don't know why, but I just assumed there were very few food options inside the park at the time. I just didn't envision a lot of food being that important like it is today. Um, Concept of foodies and things like that and festivals were nowhere near anybody's imagination at the point in time. But anyway, the Crystal Palace, which exists today as a character meal buffet. When it opened on opening day in 1971, it was actually cafeteria style in the same location. The Adventureland Veranda was a fast food option that existed on opening day in 1971, no longer around today. The Sunshine Tree Terrace was open on opening day. Town Square Cafe was an October 1st, 1971 opening restaurant. It later became Tony's Town Square restaurant. Anybody remember this? On the corner of Main Street was Coca-Cola Refreshment Corner. Anybody know what that became? Well, I will tell you. The Coca-Cola Refreshment Corner on Main Street is now today Casey's Corner, one of the most popular places in Magic Kingdom for fast food. The Diamond Horseshoe Review, which I mentioned from an entertainment perspective, was a dining location, as well as Pinocchio Village House, which exists today. Pecos Bills, this kind of surprised me, was a 1971 opening day attraction, Mexican food fair. It was there existing opening day. But wait, there's more, a lot more. The mile long bar, I don't remember that one, existed on opening day. Opening day, I don't think it lasted too terribly long. Main Street Confectionery was there on opening day and a fan favorite today, especially for me with popcorn. Liberty Tree Tavern, another today mainstay restaurant, was an opening day restaurant back in 1971. And how about this one? King Stephen's Banquet Hall. Anybody remember that restaurant? Anybody know where it was? Anybody know what it is today? Well, of course, I will tell you. The King Stephen's Banquet Hall existed inside the castle, and it is now today Cinderella's Royal Table. The Veranda Juice Bar was an opening day location for food. It is now Aloha Isle. Main Street Bakery was an opening day location, as well as the lunching pad over in Tomorrowland. It was in a different location than it is today, but nonetheless, the lunching pad was an opening day restaurant. Plaza Ice Cream Parlor, I've enjoyed that many times over the years. It was a 1971 opening day restaurant, as well as the Tomorrowland Terrace Cafe. October 1st, 1971 was there. It's still there today, but it's called Cosmic Rays, one of my favorites for a fast food restaurant location inside the Magic Kingdom. Now let's talk about resorts that opened on October 1st, 1971, and then restaurants inside those resorts. The Contemporary Resort was a opening day resort on property, as well as what was called at the time the Polynesian Village Hotel, which is now the Polynesian Resort. It was an opening day resort on property. Now, as far as restaurants go, Top of the World restaurant was an opening day 1971 restaurant inside the Contemporary Resort that later became what we know today to be California Grill. Papit Bay Veranda was a restaurant in the Polynesian Village Hotel at the time. That is now Ohana's. Another one of our family favorites with Mickey, Pluto, Lilo, and Stitch. Love the breakfast there. Coral Isle Cafe was a 1971 opening restaurant location inside the resorts. It later became Kona Cafe, which exists today. And then Captain Cook's Hideaway was the name on opening day. It's now called just simply Captain Cook's. And then last that I want to touch on for an opening day quote unquote attraction, October 1st, 1971, was the monorail. Interestingly enough, I think that's pretty cool that what exists today, and for me, and maybe I'm just simple minded, but I still think it's pretty fascinating that that thing operates on that massive concrete structure as it does today, did back in 1971 on the original loop that ran from the Contemporary to the Ticket and Transportation Center. Back then, it was just called parking. There was no multiple parks, so it was just Magic Kingdom parking. It also then went around to what is now the Polynesian Resort. Again, back then it was the Polynesian Village Hotel, and then it made its final stop at the Magic Kingdom, and it made that loop throughout the day as it does today. There was no Epcot back in 1971, so there was no monorail that went from the Ticket and Transportation Center over to Epcot. That was a later attraction added back in 1982 with Epcot. So there you have it for opening day, October 1st, 1971, at the Magic Kingdom. At that time, it was just called Walt Disney World. There was only one park, so they didn't necessarily have to have a special name for the park itself. Everybody just affectionately known it as Walt Disney World. So there you go. So I'm interested. Again, anybody there in 1971? When was your first trip? What attractions that I mentioned that are now closed do you remember attending, riding, eating at, whatever it may be? Love to hear from you. But that's a wrap on chapter 2 of the history of Walt Disney World in Florida. I'll be back again next week with chapter 3. I'm not going to tell you what that chapter is about yet. You'll have to come back and see for yourself. I drop these podcasts on the Park Life Podcast YouTube channel Monday mornings at about 5 a.m. Eastern Time. I also drop them on the Spotify Park Life Podcast channel. That way, if you're in your car driving, out on a walk, taking the kids to school, whatever it may be, you can listen in on Spotify. You can also catch me on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at Mike_Disney Travel. And you can find me on Facebook at Mike's Magical World Vacations. I do live podcasts on Tuesday evenings at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on my TikTok channel, Mike_Disney Travel, and on the Park Life Podcast YouTube channel. Would love to have you join us. We have a lot of fun. I answer questions. We talk about any new promotions, any new news or rumors that have come out, and then we play trivia or do some variation of different games for some fun interaction with everybody. But that's a wrap for today. Thanks for joining me. Hope you have a great day today, better day tomorrow, and remember when you wake up, it'll be a great day to be alive. See you again next week. Bye, everybody.